Runner now. Welcome back. As you can see, his respiration rate has already increased. Now you help me check your temperature, and I'll check your pulse. Pulse rate elevated at 125 beats per minute. Respiration increased, and temperature 98.6. How is that possible? His temperature is the same. He's hot on the outside, but he's the same temperature on the inside. Why? Because of homeostasis. His increased heart rate and respiration has maintained oxygen levels throughout his body. And if you notice, he's sweating. This is our way of maintaining our body temperature. Homeostasis. Good job. These are just a few ways our body maintains homeostasis. There are others, and if you come inside, I'll show you more. Glucose, or sugar, is essential for maintaining energy in our bodies. Too little, and our cells would starve. Too much, and our bodies would shut down. Homeostasis in this case means maintaining normal blood sugar levels. This juice has a tremendous amount of sugar. But if all the sugar in this juice went straight into my blood, I could not survive. In humans, a blood level between 80 and 160 milligrams per deciliter is essential for survival. If we don't maintain that level, we can't survive. The measuring of glucose or sugar is done with this device. It's called a glucometer. Let me first measure the sugar of the juice that I just drank. A reading of over 600 milligrams per deciliter shows up on this meter as high. A level of this much in my blood would be deadly. And now let me check my blood. A small sample of my blood will help me determine my glucose levels. Good. A reading of 136. This is well within range and survivable. Thank you, homeostasis. You've maintained my blood sugar level. Keeping things constant is important for survival. It happens in our cells, it happens in our brains, it happens over our entire body. We're alive thanks to homeostasis. It regulates our pH, carbon dioxide levels, hormone levels, and many, many more. So thank you, homeostasis. You regulate my pH. You keep my blood sugar levels constant. You make me sweat when I'm hot. You make me shiver when I'm cold. Daily, you save my life. So thank you, homeostasis, and thank you for watching. For the Science Matters Home Laboratory, I'm J.P. Keener saying, go hug your homeostasis.
Every single part of your body, from the outside in, is made up of cells working together. They each have their own job to do, but collectively they serve a greater purpose. They're keeping a larger organism, you, alive. And that means in order for you to survive, the cells that make up your body need to survive. And there's a lot more that goes into making that happen than you might realize. Cells may be the basic unit of life, but the components that make up different types of cells vary. It depends on each kind of organism and the job or jobs its cells need to perform. Something different cells have in common is a cell membrane. It makes up the outer portion of cells and only allows certain substances to travel in and out. Many cells, but not all, have a nucleus inside. We pay special attention to the nucleus because it contains all the information about what we are, at least in a physical sense. It's where our genetic material, our DNA, is stored, and the nucleus controls much of what goes on in the cell. A substance called cytoplasm is in the area between the nucleus and the cell membrane. There we find lots of other tiny parts, each with its own job or jobs to do. Collectively, the parts are called organelles. There are many parts in each cell that do many things. If cells become unable to carry out their own unique processes, they may die. That also goes for the larger organism they might be a part of. This is why it's important to eat foods we call healthy. They keep our cells healthy, and in turn, us larger organisms too. We depend on our cells, and they depend on us, because they make up everything we are made of.
Hi, my name is Chuck Messing. I'm an evolutionary biologist at Nova Southeastern University. The mutations that can happen in DNA, in the genetic code, are the ultimate sources of variations, the differences among us. At the simplest level, things like whether we have brown eyes or blue eyes, whether a rose is pink or yellow, or whether tigers are orange or white. When Charles Darwin came up with his idea of evolution, that living things change over time, he focused on variations. His idea of natural selection, the way evolution works, begins with some very basic observations. First, living creatures produce many more offspring than can survive, whether they're babies or seeds or larvae. Yet populations remain on average about the same over long periods of time, usually because there's not enough food or space to increase numbers. That's why we're not up to our ears in either ants or elephants. So, many animals and plants die before they can reproduce. They don't contribute their variations to the next generation. Darwin realized that organisms vary in their ability to survive. Some individuals of the species are faster or stronger or better camouflaged. So those that survive to reproduce must have a slight advantage, some favorable variation. Now, although Darwin did not know about DNA or genes, he did know, just as farmers or dog breeders know, that some variations get passed on to the next generation. So over many generations, as the environment changes, different variations will be better suited or adapted to the new environment, and so will more likely be passed on to the next generation. That's the basic idea of natural selection. Now, mutations are rare, and good mutations that improve survival are even rarer. Your intestines, for example, are filled with bacteria that help you digest food. Every time a bacterium reproduces, the chances of a mutation at any of its 4,000 or so genes is only about 1 in 10 million. But your intestines produce about 20 billion new bacteria every day. Of course, most of them disappear out the back end. Remember that populations remain about the same over time. But that's still enough cells to produce about 2,000 mutations every day. That's the beginning of evolution. But it doesn't stop there. If a species gets separated into two isolated populations, say as changing climate reduces a forest to patches separated by grasslands, each population with its own variations will adapt as the environments change over time, and eventually may become separate species. In fact, we often cannot tell where one species begins and another leaves off. So evolution is not just a part of the past. It's happening every day in the world around you, as well as the world within. As long as genetic mutations occur within the DNA of cells, so will evolution.
When you look in the mirror, you see a reflection of yourself as a human being. There are a number of reasons you look the way you do. It depends on how you eat, groom yourself, even the amount of time you spend in the sun. Those are things you pretty much have control over. But there are other physical factors that make up who you are on the outside and the inside. Factors that were set in place long before you were born. In the nucleus of most of your cells, there's a substance called deoxyribonucleic acid. DNA for short. DNA is a polymer, sort of a long molecule made up of lots of smaller molecules. It's what enables your cells to function properly and replicate. Each strand of DNA contains all the information needed for your cells to help you develop, live, and reproduce. Your DNA is the code of your genetics, the characteristics that are passed on to you from your parents, and your grandparents, and your great-grandparents, and so on throughout your genetic history. This code is responsible for the color of your eyes, your height, your smile, the color of your skin, and all kinds of things that make you look like who you are. It also makes most other living things look the way they do, too. Having a combination of genetic material from more than one parent organism results in genetic diversity. Diversity makes organisms unique and can better equip them to adapt and survive over time. Most of the time, DNA is pretty good at replicating and passing on genetic information. But sometimes the process breaks down and the genetic code doesn't get translated correctly. When this happens, a mutation can occur. Mutations may benefit or hamper an organism's ability to survive and pass on genetic information. For instance, if If a mutation causes a giraffe to have a shorter than usual neck, it may not be able to reach the leaves of tall trees and get food. No food would mean no energy for the giraffe, and it may not survive. On the other hand, if a mutation causes a giraffe to have a longer than usual neck, it may have an easier time obtaining food, giving it a better chance to survive and produce offspring, hopefully passing on that positive genetic trait of a longer neck to its young. Genetic diversity and mutations are two big ideas behind the theory of evolution. Many scientists believe that when cells change through diversity and mutation, it leads to changing organisms, and thus the evolution of various species. Organisms best fit to survive pass genetic traits on to their descendants. This, in turn, creates the biodiversity needed for living things to adapt and live in a world that's constantly changing.
Hi, I'm Michael Aguinaga from the Museum of Discovery and Science. There are many systems that have to work together in order for your body to maintain homeostasis. One of those systems in particular helps to make a very powerful you. Your circulatory system is made up of tubes called arteries, veins, and capillaries that transport blood. Blood carries oxygen and nutrients to all the cells in your body. The powerful organ that keeps your blood moving is your heart. Your heart is made of muscle that squeezes over and over to keep blood moving through your vessels. If you put both of your hands together like this, it would be about the same size as your very own heart. The rate at which your heart beats changes depending on what your body needs for homeostasis. Right now, this machine shows my heart is beating at over 80 beats per minute. If I was sleeping, my body would not need as much oxygen. My heart rate would be much slower. If I was running a race, the rate would be much higher. Your heart beats non-stop your entire life. It's an amazing pump that enables life processes to happen and helps make a very powerful you.
Our cells connect us to the world because everything our bodies are made of comes from our environment. All the elements from the outside world you take in get manipulated or changed by the cells in your body. It's important to get your cells what they need to function so you can function. We eat, we excrete. Two life processes that force us to interact on a very personal level with our environment. Most of the food we eat comes from other living things. More often than not, plants and animals. Every food we ingest has nutritional value that can help or hinder the way our cells work. That's why it's beneficial to choose the right balance of foods for your body. They help your cells function and, in turn, keep your body in a positive state of homeostasis. There's real meaning in the old saying, you are what you eat. Though it may be more explicitly put, you are what your body chemically breaks down and uses from the foods you digest. Digestion is the way your body gets a great deal of nutrition to your cells. It starts in the mouth where food is chewed and mixed with an enzyme in saliva that begins to break food down. The process continues in the stomach where food is chemically digested further by gastric acid. Then it moves on to the small intestine where other chemicals break food down further and nutritional essentials can be absorbed. Anything that can't be used is excreted as waste at the end of the process. This is why it's so important to eat a healthy balance of foods that are good for you. It doesn't always mean you're going to think what's healthy tastes good, but scientifically speaking, wholesome, natural foods give your body a much better chance of maintaining homeostasis. This has both short and long-term benefits such as increasing your energy level, improving body functions, enhancing the ability to carry out life processes, and adding to your overall well-being. Healthy foods, when combined with exercise, make healthy cells. Healthy cells mean a healthy you because you are what you eat. Or something like that. Cells make up every part of our physical being. They make up every other living thing we know of too. Cells help us carry out life processes and enable our bodies to maintain homeostasis. They perform all the functions we need to continue living and connect us very intimately with the world. Cells are very complicated, tiny packets of living matter, They carry with them and pass along all the genetic information needed for one generation of living things to make another. The persistence of life. When it comes to our world, cells are the science of life.